How you doing, y'all? Matt Massa Beers here. We are here. We're definitely here. Another beer review from a brewery I haven't had stuff for quite some time. I'm not going to go through the whole spiel on this because I did that in the other review of their beer that'll probably go at the same time this one goes up. Pariah. Yeah, you got a little Pariah Ultraviolet colors. I've not had this before. I've had colors. Actually, they sent a colors off with this beer when a beer mailed me that. I drank that one in my head because I reviewed colors not too long ago. I didn't read anything on here. I assume this is a tweaked version of that color. So let's dive in, see what's what. It says there, holy shit. Where it doesn't say that. It just has that kind of the thing where you put the whatevers. We're 5 years old. To mark this revolution, is called the word, around the sun for our little company, we wanted to brew something bright, big, and hoppy. Ultraviolet Colors is a Pariah double IPA with immense quantity of some of our favorite American and New Zealand hops in pellet, liquid, and cryo formats. A grist of heavy oats provides fluffy foundation of concentrated orange, cantaloupe, mango, and fruit-straped gum and characteristics to shine over. This is a special treat indeed, and we are thrilled to share it with you. On behalf of the team, Pariah team, thank you. Here's to many more. It's 8.3% double IPA. This says nothing about any kind of association with just colors. So it was canned almost exactly a month ago, if you guys can kind of get that on there. And it says, got 5 on it. Got 5 on it. Got 5 on it. Always dig. Got the Pariah with the sweet Prince Purple Rain Revolution color format fonts is what it's called. We have a hard time with words. Anyway, man, the one thing I've noticed in that doing much less beer reviews, I'm quite rusty. You know, taking that 2 months off and going back into it and not doing it on a super regular basis. I think I'm probably reviewing once a week, maybe twice a week, maybe, depending on how my mood is. Rusty Matt. What are you gonna do? Now I love the back. Like I said, Prince font. Front? It's alright. A little pinstriping. I don't know. Something about the can. That looks like what this beer, well, it's most likely brewed in San Diego, but it says brewed in can in Baltimore and San Diego because they've moved to, or they're in the midst of moving to Baltimore. I'm not sure where it was brewed. I'm assuming it was brewed in San Diego, and it kind of looks like it is because it looks like a little heavy West Coast influence as far as malt goes. I don't think it's oxidized. It's a little bit darker than what you expect from a typical double IPA, super fruity kind of hazy. But when you talk about a lot of these West Coast kind of IPAs, West Coast double IPAs, they tend to come off a little bit darker. They have that old school kind of maybe crystal marisottery kind of malt bill as opposed to just straight almost all pure sugar. So I expect there to be a sweetness, a decent kind of malt characteristic to this on top of that kind of big kind of fruitiness that they call out in there. Just south of khaki colored head. The nose, usually nose. Quite muted. I'm getting like a tangerine, peachy kind of juicy thing. And by juicy I mean like an actual like fruit juice. Subtle though, nothing overly sweet, nothing big as far as a precursor or an indication of a big bittering component. Just kind of that rich, I can get that gummy thing, the fruit stripey gum, as opposed to juicy fruity gum. So think that kind of stone fruit, tangerine, clementine, kind of orangey stone fruity mixture, but on a less sweetened scale, and that little gummy kind of characteristic. As far as how it smells, I don't think it's going to be gummy, thick. Whatever. Words. Cheers, y'all. That is rich. It's not sweet. There's a difference. It's decadent. It's not thick, but it's just rich. I mean, just stone fruit out the wazoo on this one, but an almost semi-underripened kind of peachy, kind of nectarine kind of thing going on here. Super stone fruity. super stone fruity. Like it's in that kind of fruit stripey gum thing. That makes kind of sense. It comes off with that little soft, little confectionery powderiness. You know, when you get that gum, you get fruit stripe or even juicy fruit. Those kind of gums, they have that kind of that little soft powder that kind of coats the outside of the gum that keeps it from kind of getting gummy. It basically keeps the moisture out of the gum. But you always get that on your tongue before you actually break it apart. You throw that big stick in there and it's hard, and you kind of break it apart into segments and start chewing on it. So you get that kind of powdery, it's not lactosey, but it's not powdered sugar. It's kind of floating around in that different kind of sweetness realm. That's the way this beer kind of comes off as a sweetness in a very cool way, because it's not overly sweet. It's not like straight sugar. It is more of that confectionery sugar that has a little bit of kind of a less sharp kind of edge to it. And I kind of appreciate it. And when it comes to this beer, you definitely get a grain bill out of this. I actually appreciate that. I love me drop out all bitterness, kind of neutral grain, hazy IPA, New Schools. I can get down with that stuff. I can. But when you brew something with a proper malt base, and that delivers not a malty beer, but the grain portion of the show brings a malt characteristic to the beer as opposed to just a brewer sugar thing. I really do dig that, and I think there is a little bit of bolder malts in here. I think it's just not as light as you possibly can be. Pilsner malt and all those kind of things. I think there is something in here that's a little bit beefier, a little bit bigger, a little bit crystal, a little maris otter, something along those lines to give this a little bit more of a base. There's a bittering to it, nothing too crazy. West Coast influence, but much less than what you'd expect from West Coast IPA when you add that malt base in there, which is going to bring a little bit sweeter, a little bit sharper sweetness to the beer. I think when you have that bittering portion of the show, it helps balance that off. So that's why this beer doesn't come off as a sharp, sweet, kind of hazy double IPA. I like this quite a bit, actually. It's really well made. It's just hitting on several different levels. From the malt characteristics bringing something to the game. Having a mouthfeel that is rich and dense and beefy, but not that super turbidity that you get from a lot of these new school hazy IPAs. Being a double IPA, being an 8% and change, drinking like that to a T. The hops coming off with that big fruity characteristic, like I said, along with that bittering portion of the show. There's a lot of different elements here, all working in unison that you don't get a lot when it comes to a lot of kind of big, dense, hazy IPAs today. They're very much kind of like, let's drop out all bitterness, let's bring the least amount of malt profile to the beer we possibly can, and just try to get this kind of satiny, rich, fluffy mouthfeel that this beer kind of takes notes. No, that's not the word I'm looking for. It takes bits and pieces of all the IPAs. I don't want to just strictly kind of pigeonhole to hazies, but all the great parts of a lot of IPAs and brings it into one beer. It brings New England hazy IPA, obviously, that's part and parcel of the beer itself. Brings that Midwestern hazy IPA, that kind of chill wavy, little bit of maltiness, a bigger maltiness, a bit of not being afraid of bittering, that West Coast with that bittering having a little pine characteristic, but nothing too crazy. A little bit of old school East Coast IPA. There's a lot of different elements in here, but they're working in a very, very fun way. And it just tastes like an old school beer. I should rephrase that. It tastes like a new school, old school beer. Leaning into the headies of the world, leaning into I should say more like alchemists of the world, the fiddleheads of the world, the Lawsons of the world. Those kind of breweries. It has more to do with that as far as a DNA than your Treehouse and Trilliums of the world. Not that there is an influence from those breweries in there and the beers that they produce. There absolutely is in here, and it shows. But you could tell there's a love of brewing classic beer in here that shows. And when you have these beers from breweries like this, not that Pariah's been around all that long, but I would say a bit more old schooly kind of mentality when it comes to brewing. The kind of industrial arts of the world, and those kind of breweries, to where they're new, but they definitely have this kind of old soul kind of steward at the helm when it comes to making their beers. And when it shines through in their beers, That's an awesome thing. And I'm not going to sit here and say, everything Pariah has thrown at me has been fantastic. It's actually quite the opposite. Not true. Shouldn't say that. I've had way more hits than misses. But there was a period of time, probably last year, maybe a bit earlier than that, before they started to move. They would send off beer periodically, basically, and when they started to move, that kind of went by the wayside for a bit, and now they started sending stuff off again. That last few they sent off, there was a little bit of I just don't get it from them. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was they're moving, a little bit of kind of who knows what's going on. But the last couple I've had from them over the past 2 beer mails that they sent over the past couple months, really, really, really good. Like, really good. Like affirmationally good kind of stuff, to where I'm just like, oh, okay. It was a little bit of kind of like, not my cup of tea for a minute, but to have stuff like this and have it ring this pretty and this tasty and just lean heavily into a lot of different stuff that I enjoy, which makes sense because then I'll like it. Hey, send me stuff that I like and I'll like it. Oh, who would have thought? I dig it. I think it's fun. So, yeah. I don't know what else to say. I mean, we could do the Mount Rushmore thingy. Hazy Double IPA. Is it up there? It's up there. It's close. It's probably worthy of being on there. If we were to strip it into 2 different categories, like strictly New England style, drop out all bitterness Double IPA, and everything else, it's probably on there. I have no idea their value. They send off price points on their beers every now and then, and I always ignore it because I don't want to read anything about the beer until I review it, and by the time I review it, I lose those notes. So that's poopy on me. So hopefully the price point, Double IPA, something like this, anniversary beer, I'm assuming it's going to be $18, give or take. Hopefully it's not too terribly much more than that. And, yeah, the important part, what do you guys think? And gals, and everybody in between. What do you think of Pariah? If you're out there San Diego way, if you've had this beer, if you've had their beers over the years, what do you think? Because some people love them, some people are not big fans. I'm kind of curious of what y'all think about what they do and what their beers are like. Conversely, Baltimore, yeah, what up? Have you had your fair share of Pariah? Are you excited for Pariah to land there and start producing, and so you can start chugging their beers up here on the East Coast? It's going to be awesome. Now I can actually visit the brewery. Not that I can't go to San Diego, but yeah, Baltimore's a little bit easier to get to for me. Yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you've had this beer, if you've had any of their beers, what you think about them. You love them, you hate them, anywhere in between. That's what we want to talk about. So put that all down there. So there you go. Review on the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't, whatever. Let's talk. There you go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hope we'll see you next time. Cheers, all.